I have said before that I have an intense, crippling fear of death. It's not so much the fear of how I'll die or the moment that this inevitable natural phenomenon would happen to me, but rather the loss of identity. I fear that when I cease to exist, I would no longer know or being able to differentiate the self, myself, from every single other atom that exists in this vast universe of atoms. If you really want to get technical, when my body decays and gets broken up again into quarks, leptons, and bosons, I will return to this particle soup and nothing will make sense or can be identified collectively as the person that used to be Hoi anymore. I cannot comprehend a reality in which I do not exist, and I'm not me, a separate, unique entity from other carbon-based life forms in this universe. And for that reason alone, the only tangible way for me to comprehend existence is through life, my own life. One may rebuke, criticize, and insult me and make the argument that you and I are merely specks of dust in this giant universe and that our existence are inherently insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Sure, there are billions of people in the world, and at least a few handful of them are very similar to you, almost identical to the point that you'd cease to be an original or special. When you die after several generations, no one will remember or even have the slightest hint of your existence, what your accomplishments were, or what good you have contributed to society, if any. Your personal thoughts that were once distinct and meaningful because they were yours will now become merely ideas that are transmitted among people and communities who have not even lived your life, but only heard of your thoughts through these words. You will become a part of this collective consciousness. You will become everything and lose yourself in the process. You become nothing. Gott mit uns. God is with us. A phrase commonly used by Nazis and is engraved on German Socialist Party members' belt buckles, helmets, and various other clothing accessories. Hitler was a Catholic until death and was never excommunicated from the church, possibly to avoid further crackdown of the church during and after his regime. The Nazis went on to justify their actions against the Jews and various other groups as being in line with God's teaching, exterminating people from society who were deemed by them to have betrayed their own God. Allahu Akbar. God is great. A phrase that is often used by freedom fighters who believe that any act, no matter how violent, if it's in line with what the chosen prophets and God has told them, then it is righteous. It's this belief that allowed them to commit acts that I cannot think of myself committing, exterminating infidels and apostates, while also forfeiting their own lives in the process. The reason for such martyrdom is to inherit paradise, where God will be with them. As a young man, I struggled with my identity. Hard. After all, you need to have something in common with the people around you who identify as the same thing as you in order to be seen as one of them. I need to fit in, and yet I can never fit in. No matter how much I try to deny certain aspects of myself, no matter how much I try to pretend to comply to certain aspects or adhere to certain doctrines and agreeing to certain ideologies of such groups. To gain membership to one group means that you cannot be a member of another group in which this condition is mutually exclusive to both groups. If God is also on your side, then whose side is he really on? If your God permits you to do certain things, which I know my God is forbidding us to do, then what can we and can't we do? Can we ever question God if God is the authority of all truth? Can we ever change our holy text to suit our environments when new understanding, discoveries, and knowledge is gained in the world? If God's word is authentic and is unchanged for eternity, will we ever get to love God willingly out of our own volition? Or will we have to submit to him and love him because we have no other choices? Will we be condemned to hell where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth for an eternity if we do not provide this conditional love to an invisible creator? If God needs nothing and he is omnipotent, Why should he require our love and worship? I realized that there is no answer. Silence. I can't see God. I can't feel God. And I have never spoken to God. Only my own thoughts. If God knows my every thought and He's always with me and knows exactly the number of hair on my head, then He has made me distinct from the rest of His creations. I am unique in His eyes. I'm one of a kind. But if God is also with you and God is omnipresent, then He's not with any of us. To not be bound to the laws of nature means to not have existed in this plane, which is governed by time, space, and matter. I cannot comprehend such things, and I refuse to adhere to a set of doctrines that cannot be challenged or worship a dictator that cannot be questioned. That is not love. I had to do it because I fear God. I know that a believer would not trade place with a sinner and an unbeliever when they get to the pearly gates of heaven. Salvation means everything to them, even to the detriment of others. The others here being the unbelievers, the sinners. They'd rather the unbeliever burn in hell than risking their own salvation. If everybody else is in hell, and if all of my friends and family are all in hell, then I do not want to be in heaven. I just don't want it, man. As always, this is your boy, Khoi. Stay strong, and I'll speak to you next time.